Okay, let's dive into this because if you've recently hit $250,000 in net worth, you might be popping a celebratory glass of champagne, right? Thinking you finally made it. But the surprising truth we're unpacking in today's explainer is that $250,000 is actually the absolute most dangerous financial milestone in America. Why? Well, because the exact same habits that got you here, relentlessly saving, investing, playing hard financial offense, they're going to quietly sabotage you if you don't upgrade your strategy. At this level, your money literally starts behaving differently. You desperately need to start playing defense. To understand exactly what's at stake here, let's look at two incredible case studies from the source material, Noah and Lee. So both guys are 34 years old, and both just crossed that magic $250,000 net worth line in the exact same month. They did everything right to get there. But just 6 months later, Lee gets rear-ended by an uninsured driver. He ends up dragged into a massive lawsuit and watches a full third of his hard-earned wealth just vanish into a settlement that his standard auto insurance flat out wouldn't cover. Meanwhile, Noah faces the exact same scenario and walks away without losing a single dollar. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the secret to Noah's survival. It just comes down to simple math. Noah walked away totally unscathed simply by spending $32 a month. That is roughly $1 a day. And he spent it on a piece of paper most people have never even heard of, an umbrella insurance policy. It's arguably the absolute cheapest insurance you can buy, per dollar protected, and it completely changed his financial destiny. To truly grasp the return on investment of this wildly cheap policy, we've got to look at the reality of standard auto insurance. Usually, standard liability caps sit right around $250,000. Now, that sounds like a lot of coverage, until you remember the harsh reality. One bad ER visit, one major surgery, or a single wrongful injury claim can blow through those standard limits instantly, like tissue paper. Paying these small, upfront insurance costs is exactly how you prevent massive, catastrophic long-term losses. So what exactly is this thing? Well, umbrella insurance is liability coverage that quite literally sits like a giant umbrella right on top of your existing auto and home insurance. And why is this step one of your financial defense? Because once you cross the $250,000 mark and you have a house, retirement balances, and visible income, lawyers look at you and see what is politely called a collectible defendant. Yeah, you actually have something worth taking now. This policy activates when the worst happens, serving as your absolute first line of defense against outside threats. And this brilliantly illustrates your second line of defense, protecting your money from the exact people you're supposed to trust. At $250K, the cost-benefit analysis of hiring a financial planner completely flips. But you have got to know how to identify a genuine professional. See, a fee-only fiduciary is paid directly by you and is legally obligated to act in your best interest. They offer unbiased, optimized planning. Contrast that with a commission-based salesperson. They get paid by selling you things. They have absolutely no legal obligation to your best interest and typically push high-fee products like whole life insurance or actively managed funds that just quietly chip away at your returns. Hiring a true fiduciary, that's an investment that pays for itself in year one. Step 3 in our defensive playbook tackles the single largest expense in your entire life: taxes. Look, at $250K, if you're still doing your own taxes at 11 p.m. the night before they're due, you are leaking wealth. In our case study, Noah hired a CPA for $1,400, and that CPA found him $4,300 in deductions in the first year alone. How? By utilizing powerful triple tax advantage tools like maxing out an HSA, implementing the mega backdoor Roth to grow wealth completely tax-free, and using tax loss harvesting to strategically offset gains. Closing these tax leaks is going to quietly compound your wealth for the rest of your life. Step 4 brings us to an incredibly powerful rule. At $250,000, your job is to never be forced to sell. You know, the typical household looking rich on paper often has a shockingly embarrassing cash position. If life punches you in the face with a layoff during a market downturn and you have zero cash, you're forced to panic sell your stocks at the absolute bottom of the market just to buy groceries. A real emergency fund of 6 to 12 months sitting in a high-yield savings account earning, say, 3.8 to 4.5%, that isn't trash. It's the insurance policy that lets the other 90% of your money stay invested through total chaos. Step 5 is all about protecting your family from a total logistical nightmare. Look, dying without an estate plan means your family gets dragged into a fluorescent-lit probate court for months, and 3 to 7% of your total estate gets eaten up in legal fees. Plus, the whole shebang becomes public record. This complete toolkit fixes that. It includes a revocable living trust to skip probate and transfer assets privately, alongside a pour-over will, a durable power of attorney, and a healthcare directive. Once you have real assets, this deferred work is literally no longer optional. Step 6 tackles income protection. If anyone, and I mean anyone, depends on you financially, you have to ask yourself, do you have term life insurance? It provides pure protection, ideally 10 to 12 times your income for incredibly affordable rates. We're talking 30 to 60 bucks a month. Compare that to whole life insurance, which costs 8 to 12 times more and pays the salesperson in a shiny suit a massive 50 to 110% commission on your first year premium. No thanks. Secure, affordable term life, and hey, don't forget private long-term disability insurance so chronic illness doesn't just freeze your entire wealth building plan. Okay, step 7 might actually be the most crucial mindset shift of all, buying back your time. Once you crossed $250,000, the value of your time absolutely skyrockets. If you make $200,000 a year, basic math dictates your time is worth about $100 an hour. This means spending 4 hours of your Saturday sweating and mowing your own lawn to quote unquote save $50 is actually costing you a massive amount in opportunity cost. Paying that $50 for a lawn service, that's a highly strategic investment. It buys back your time, the literal only resource you can never get more of, allowing you to compound your wealth through deep work, maybe a side business, or simply getting the rest you need to prevent burnout. Let's move to and see how this builds. Because I know looking at 7 major steps all at once can feel super overwhelming. But the beauty of this explainer is that you prioritize these and build your defense over time. Take a look at Noah's highly practical timeline. Year 1 is the absolute highest priority. Get the umbrella policy, because it offers massive protection against total ruin for almost zero cost. Year 2 is the next critical move. Hire CPA to immediately stop the silent drain of taxes. Year 3, you focus on foundational legacy protection, setting up the trust and securing term life insurance. And then year 4 rounds it out by building that robust cash emergency fund. See, it's just a series of boring weekends prioritized over a few years that ultimately construct an impenetrable financial fortress. And here is the undeniable proof of what happens when you compare action to inaction. 10 years later, at age 44, the contrast is just staggering. Noah methodically executed his defense. He even used the hours he bought back from outsourcing his lawn care to build a side income. He now sits peacefully at a net worth of $850,000. But Lee ignored his vulnerabilities. He got hit with a surprise tax bill, went through a divorce without a prenup, and was forced to sell stocks at the market bottom just to fix a roof. His net worth completely plummeted to $190,000. Guys, they had the exact same starting point, but totally different outcomes. All because one played defense? So what does this all mean? The crucial point is this. None of these defensive moves, buying an umbrella policy, setting up a trust, paying a CPA, they aren't glamorous. They definitely don't provide a fun Instagram photo op, but they are the exact moves that close the silent leaks in your financial life. You've clearly mastered the offense required to get to this point, but are you genuinely prepared to protect it? Take a hard look at your own financial fortress, pick just one defensive item off this list this month, and lock it down. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this helps you truly preserve the wealth you've worked so incredibly hard to build.